Hi guys, my name is Dante, and welcome back to the Space Goo Attacks. So yeah, we're just continuing from where we stopped in the previous video. Yeah, I just want to jump around all the details, make sure all the elements of the subway design are more or less defined well, so it would be just interesting to look at. It will bring a lot more the sci-fi feel that this kind of composition needs. And yeah, we'll work a bit on the people as well, especially on the blonde woman. And of course, the most interesting and important part, the alien goo. This is where we're gonna put some interesting thought. So let's start. That's better. Apparently I forgot to add a neck to the guy in a green shirt. Moving along with the details, just adding some shading and whatever from the metallic and rubbery elements right here. Just making sure I drop all the materials, their highlights and shadows where they should be. And after that, I will just grab these colors and shape them up into something more accurate, if I need to. That's pretty much the strategy. Playing a pretty hard game of making eyes and mouths and noses look decent even though I don't zoom in and they are really small, and that's quite hard. That's why faces look so weird. So yeah, back to the guy. He obviously needs a lot more than just a neck. Head is too big. Yeah, there we go, that's better. Literally just hair was too big. A very complex geometry, therefore a whole lot of highlights. This is probably one of the 3 situations where you can put a huge amount of highlights on a thing and it will actually be correct, considering how many light sources there is in a subway train, and this thing is gonna just reflect all of them. Really like adding just blurry spots of whatever is behind the goo to make it more transparent, and it suddenly looks so cool. cool. Kind of like shadow. Also thinking through the fact that it's dropping the shadow, so it's gonna be a darker background, not just a normal one. And in here, there's a lighter metal starting, and in here is darker. We can make it more transparent all of a sudden, and in here it gets bright. And then just balance it out, blend it together a little bit so the background wouldn't look that sharp. So we would have certain amount of like cloudy, kind of like foggy transparency, like a foggy glass or something like that. And it's so cool just to jump between the transparency or opacity for this material wherever you want it different to make things look as impressive as you can. By the way, how do you guys like the hopefully much better quality of the frontal camera? I switched to 30 FPS again because 60 FPS had so much noise that green screen thing looked much worse. So right now, hopefully it looks a bit better, although the movement will be much choppier because 30 FPS. You probably don't care. You probably just missed the couch. I'll change the layout, but not exactly soon, I think, considering how everything else shouldn't be moved to the place where it used to be. So anyway, let's move on to the floor. I want to make the floor. I can see in the reference there's a lot of metal planks in here as well. So let's add those and some dirt, highlights and such. Okay, so a bunch of reflections over here, a bunch of highlights. Have no idea if it's correct or not, but it doesn't matter since the viewer also doesn't know. And now we just add one consistent shadow at the bottom, and it suddenly looks like a reflective plane. Hopefully. I mean, yeah, alright, that looks kinda fine. Let's add some dark spots from old bubble gum stuck to the floor. Also something white I can see in the reference. Oh, these are probably the highlights reflected from the top metallic handles. Those are not actually dirt of any sort. Oh, it's time for a break. Keep forgetting I can take a break. So yeah, this is the progress for now. Kinda cool. I like the details of the highlights on this ad on top. Although it's not very realistic that the bottom thing is without an ad. If we would go realistically, the way the subway in Kiev looks right now, this should have an ad, and in here there should be also ads everywhere, and in here everything should be covered in ads. If you're wearing headphones on a subway, you have no idea where you are because there are only ads everywhere. So yeah, for now, I think people are almost okay. Like, this is a very simplified, stylized look. I think it kind of works out as a stylized look. Although some shapes of the legs should be fixed. Like, this is very narrow. We should make it a bit more natural looking and less stick looking. One thing that's actually not working out at all yet is hands, obviously. obviously, because they're not defined completely. But yeah, that little thing, and well, mostly everything is more or less defined now. So we should work more on the monster after a break, and it will be pretty cool. Nuts. Better than candy. Alright, let's get back to this. Alright, this is it. Well, there you go, with tiny shadows and tiny highlights. Everything looks much more interesting, at a certain distance at least. Added some cool bubbles to increase the details on the surface when I had just a blob like that. I just grabbed the darker color and made something like this going on. And on top of that, you add highlights and you get the blob, with a lot of cool smaller blobs. Also, these red berries also make things look very creepy and like, what the hell is that kind of feel. So yeah, this is it. It could have been brought to a much higher detail finalized painting, but I think we can keep it as is, a cool and relatively simple speed painting. I practiced this interesting shading here when most of the object goes from light to just a little darker and more saturated, and then suddenly super sharp dark shadows only at very selected areas. Something you can learn to do when you do studies from reality or from photos. Like, this way you get a very soft lighting. Like on a subway train, lights are from all directions, so there are no places where there would be like really dark shading and then it would be the light here, like not that much of a contrast. So the actual contrast shifts lower to the very dark shadows somewhere over here, or like pans, right? In here and here, like I made it a bit stronger because there's like cavity going on in here, so there will be darker, deeper situation. But in most cases, it's just a gradient from light to darker light and then suddenly much darker at a very cavity area. But of course, no matter how soft and all over the place lighting you make, you should never keep areas where there would be like completely flat situation. Like in here, I sort of have that. Let's fix it a little bit. So you grab those colors and you make sure you define different stages of the gradient depending on how the surface is turned away or to the light source. Nothing stays flat. Oh, I'm running out of battery. Hope the recording will save. So yeah, let's probably stop that. And I thank you for watching if you did. I guess you did if you're here. Leave a like and subscribe. Tell a friend. The goo is real. Spread the word. Do whatever you want. And I will see you in the next one. Bye. This is one of those paintings that really don't work when they're not detailed enough and become the opposite, like very interesting to look at when you put enough detail to it.